Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Fantasy Show for a recap of Week 6. I've got Adam joining me again to go through everything. We were supposed to have a special guest this week, but he's let us down. Freddie Hall, our main guy, our host from the main show, was supposed to come on and gloat about beating me, but he's been called into work. So me and Adam are going to save a bit of face for me, hopefully, and go through the reviews. I think it was a pretty, I'd say, a good week for you. You managed to win with a score that would usually be a loss. So, yeah, week 6 for you went well.
I had the third lowest score in the whole of the league. The only good thing was I was up against someone who had the second lowest score in the league. And I happened to be talking to the guy who had the lowest score in the league. It was a bit of a nightmare for me, to be honest, and yet somehow managed to come through. We were at the London game. I was sending messages to you during the game as we weren't seated next to each other about how depressed I was with Myles Gaskin and his awful ability to throw the ball all over the place, which was nice of him. I got very, very lucky. So I'll take it.
Yeah, you got to take wins like that. But this wasn't an uncommon thing for people this week. There was a lot of people in our league scoring under 100 or just scraping the 100 mark, which is very odd because usually the average, I'd say, is around the 130 mark, I'd say, for most teams. So, is it a case that this week there was just that many injuries? There was the first week of the bye week. There's not much on our waivers. What do you think you can put down to the low scores we had from a lot of people this week?
I think there was just a lot. I think the bye obviously starts to bring in problems. I think New Orleans were on a bye, weren't they? So, anyone who had Kamara, that's a huge amount of points you're going to lose. There was San Francisco. So that's another one, any of their running backs, you're going to lose out there. Debo Samuel, any of that, you're going to lose out on. So I think you're going to start seeing it more now. You're going to get games where certain teams are just not going to put them points up. I mean, I know we're not talking about this week yet, but I've got my number one running back and my number one wide receiver both on bye this week. So, I kind of knew it once I drafted them that week 7 was not going to be a good week for me, whoever I played, because it's a big loss and it's going to be difficult to overcome that. So I think you're starting to see the buys come into effect. I also think there was a few teams that have played well this year who didn't play well. So like the Chargers was a big one. I've got Austin Eckler. He did nothing essentially. It was pretty poor from him. The Browns, normally a pretty solid team, normally do pretty well defensively. I got -2. So that was impressive because they were up against Arizona. So yeah, I think you're starting to see that a little bit more now. Russell Wilson going out. So anybody who's got DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett or Russell Wilson is gonna struggle. And I think this is you're starting to see a few injuries. You're starting to see, and I think all of that put in together is probably why it's starting to go that way.
Yeah, I think I was talking to Freddie yesterday actually, about some upcoming games, and he's already projected. I know we've not got him on the show, but he gave me a little insight that he's projected that he reckons 7 teams of our 14 are going to be 3-4 or 4-3 after this week. So yeah, it's going to get real tight, I think, after this week.
Yeah, I think, and the other thing is especially with Johnny getting the win against his brother last week. That's a big thing as well, because we've been saying that he's been a bit unlucky with the players that he's got, they just haven't really gone off. And all of a sudden, he's won 2 in a row. And you can sort of see that them players that he's got on his team have the potential to keep going. And, you know, you guys always tell me about how he's normally always at the bottom and not very good. Yeah, I can't help but think that he's got some players on that team that could do quite well for him. And yet he's 13th. You know, at 2 and 4.
He's got a favourable matchup week 7 as well, so that could be another win for him in the win column. Again, I think they've got him down as being another one of the 3 and 4 teams. And we talk about Johnny beating Ben. I know we've had Tinch and Byron both on, and when I asked them about what they thought of Ben and will he be beat? Is there anyone that can stop him? They both reiterated that last season, Ben started off 4-0, 5-0 maybe, and tailed off. And I think he ended the season missing out on the playoffs, I think. So, you know, he narrowly beat me by 1 point. And it was the week that Debu Samuel got 38 points. So it was a bit of a shock that I lost to him the week previous. Then he goes to loses to Johnny. Could we see a decline in his team now that the bye weeks have hit? Do you think that he's not going to be as competitive now?
Am I right that he's the Buccaneers fan?
Yeah, the Pirate Bay, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that what you're going to start to find with people who have kind of done that, and if Brady doesn't have a great game, then that means that not only is he losing out on points from Brady, but he's also losing points from Mike Evans. You know, you're hoping that the Buccaneers defense does well, which it didn't really do that great last week, only got him 4 points. I think because of that, you're going to find that people who have got probably 3 players from one team, if that team doesn't do great, then that is going to be a problem. I mean, it's crazy to think he got 121 points, but 38 of them were from Derrick Henry and 24 were from Darrell Henderson. So his 2 running backs did really well. But the rest, it didn't work out. I mean, he's got Randall Cobb in there, which is a bit of as a Packers fan, I mean, he's gets time, but he's not going to he's very hit and miss, Randall Cobb. He's not going to be in for every snap. So, yeah, I think it's probably over-reliant on one team. And I feel like is it Byron's got quite a lot of Buffalo players in his team, I think. Again, I might be wrong.
He's got a lot of Packers players in his team. Byron's the one that's got Aaron Rodgers
and Aaron Jones.
I think he's got Emmanuel Sanders and Singletary. But Singletary's on his bench, and Emmanuel Sanders is in his flex. So, he's got 2 Packers players. I mean, all you need is for that team not to do well in a game, which of course will never happen. But you know, I mean, lucky for me, I've got him the week that Packers are on bye week. So
right, yeah. Well, this is what I mean, because the bye weeks are coming in. This is what will happen, and it's like I think that's an issue for teams that have gone down that route. You know, I mean, like I said, my number 1 wide receiver and running back are both on bye this week, so it's an issue for me as well. It's like I think to a certain extent you can't necessarily avoid it because there's just so many teams that go on bye on the same week. So, but yeah, I mean that will be an issue for him. But.
So we can't not talk about Freddie's win this week with obviously. I was quite confident before the week.
You were very confident.
Yeah, I really thought I'd beat him. You know, I was really happy with my team. Had some nice matchups. I was thinking, you know what, I've got a real good chance. A few of his players were questionable. You even asked me last week on the show, you went, are you worried about the fact that a lot of your players are questionable? I said, no, this seems to be a formality every week. There's lots of questionables and nothing really comes of it. Sort of made commentator's curse of like shot myself in the foot because I had Damien Williams in my lineup, got COVID. And then I had Nick Chubb, who on the Thursday, was it, or the Friday, was declared out, and I was like, well,
Yeah.
that's my 2 starting running backs gone. And I had to rely on my reserves of Josh Jacobs and James Conner, who both had tough matchups against the Cleveland defense and the Broncos defense. So it started to go downhill, but I still stayed confident. But the likes, like you've said, the likes of like people that are usually quite consistent. I had Marquis Brown, who this season, I think he's, for fantasy wise, I think he's rated as the 7th best wide receiver in the game. He's scoring on average, looking at it, he scored 19, 24, 20, 34 already in 4 of his 6 games. The other 2, he's got 8.3. And then last week, an odd 7.5. And then I had Michael Pittman, again, I've had to bring in due to some injuries. But again, he's been consistent every week. If you look at his last 4 his last 4 weeks, he scored 21, 11, 13, and 20. And then the week I played Freddie against Houston, he puts up 5.8. It just didn't go my way this week. And I can.
The one thing I would say as well is you were saying about the questionables that are put on there. It's like, because Freddie had a lot as well, and yet all of his seemed to play. And not only did they play, they played quite well. It's like Kyler Murray had it, Dalvin Cook had it, Swift had it. There was a lot of them on there, and yet they all hit. 2 of them hit over 20 and 1 hit over 17. It's like it's a lot to take on.
I think as well, like I was watching the scores for this as they were coming in, and I think DeAndre Swift, Dalvin Cook, and I think DJ Moore, in the 4th quarter with 2 minutes to go, they were all on about like 7, 8 points.
Yeah.
And I was kind of feeling, you know what, there's still a chance here. And the amount of garbage time, I say garbage time, in the last 2 minutes.
There was a lot, wasn't there?
It just seems like, if you watch Red Zone, it just seemed like every highlight was one of Freddie's players. And I was like, oh no, how's this happening? But it is what it is. I can't, worry about that week. That week's gone. I can only worry about next week. So, again, I'm favouring my team, but who knows? They might all get injured again.
How are you actually feeling about your team? Because the thing is like, you are the commissioner of the league and you're meant to know what you're talking about. And, I'd start questioning it really, whether you actually do, because you're 2-4 and you're near the bottom. And
yeah, you say that.
Is it just injuries? Is that it?
It's injuries. I mean, I lost Russell Wilson. Like I said, I've had injuries to Nick Chubb. That's, if you've got Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Alvin Kamara, and they go out, that's a surefire, points for you.
Yeah.
When we've discussed with the guests that we've had on what they think of my team, no one's had the balls yet to come out and say your team's crap. They've all gone like, it's pretty good on paper, bar my tight end.
Yeah.
Everybody's played well and been consistent. It just doesn't seem to click every week. I have played a lot of the teams that are towards the top of the league already. I think when you think about that, I've already played the top. I've already played 3rd. I've already played 4th. So, I've obviously got some better fixtures to come for me in these middle of the road teams, 2 of which I've already picked wins up against. So I think when it pans out of the league, I'm still confident in the players that I've got. They're all number 1 wideouts, running backs for their teams. I've taken a dodgy punt on someone from my bench that talked about earlier. We might talk about.
I feel we do need to bring up as well. I mean, what exactly was the thinking behind this? Because I mean, even if the trade was to go through, which is a mental trade, I mean, it is mental. If Miami go down this route, it feels like it goes against everything they've been doing. But if they were to do it, what exactly makes you think that he's going to play this year?
I didn't like, so obviously a lot of it came out last night / this morning in the early hours that it was pretty much could be a done deal by the end of this week that he could go. And I sat there and thought, really? And I was like, right, I'll do a bit of research. I'll have a little read into it. I'll see whether he's eligible to play and things like that. I just thought, you know what? I've got Russell Wilson on IR sitting on the reserves. I've got Matt Ryan, who's already had his bye week now, which is he's very consistent when it comes to fancy points for throwing.
Yeah.
And I had to bring in Trevor Lawrence last week as a backup because Matt Ryan was on bye week, Russell Wilson out. I thought I've got a spare place on my roster. I've got 4 really good wide receivers. I've got 4 really good running backs or good enough running backs. It's worth a punt. Put him in on there, even if it doesn't come through, just in case it does. Because if it goes through, there's going to be a bidding war, I think, with all of us putting in our waiver claim for him.
Yeah.
There is no reason after he's traded he can't play as soon as he's got a bit of knowledge of the playbook. And because his case is in investigation at the moment, then they said there's going to be no sort of suspensions or bringing the NFL involved until the police investigation's over. So he could play out the end of the season before it's even brought up again.
The only thing with that is there not, I know this isn't fantasy, but is there not a potential that he could end up on the commissioner's exempt list whilst the investigation is ongoing?
No, because it's currently already being investigated now, and he's not on the exempt list. Houston could have played him at any point. He's on the 53-man roster. He's not they've designated him as an inactive player each week rather than him being out. So Houston could have chose to have played him any of the weeks so far during the season. There's no eligibility of him not being able to play. It's just they don't want to play him.
Yeah. Do you not think that maybe the reason he hasn't been put on the exemption list is because the NFL know that Houston aren't going to play him?
Who knows? I thought
because it kind of, that's how it feels to me. It feels almost like, because there's kind of been precedent, isn't there, for ongoing investigations where they do get put on.
But we have had previous players in the past over the years play during the season when they've had something going on in the background, and they've played out the season and it come into play in the off season and been banned for the next season. So it's not a common thing for them to ban players that have had issues during the season. So I just think it's worth a punt if it does happen. It's not taking up any room on my bench. I've got people on IR sitting on the reserve, so.
Just a sign of desperation, that's all. But don't worry, it's fine. We know.
If he plays, I could trade him, mate. I could maybe strengthen my team through that.
Yeah. Okay.
Matt Ryan's not bad. We had a lot of movement this week on the waivers, bar that. A lot of movement this week. I think a lot of people had some big clear outs, got some players in. There has been a lot of injuries. Was there anybody this week you had your eye on, or is anybody you thought should have been picked up that wasn't? Or if you look through the waivers, is there any you think that's an odd move?
So I picked up Michael Carter. I was actually really surprised that he got ditched as early as he did.
By me.
Yeah, by you. I was a little bit surprised because I kind of felt like because you drafted him, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of felt like when we knew that, there was talk about Michael Carter, but I felt like it was always going to be a committee. But from what we saw against the Falcons at London, I felt that, okay, now it feels like he's getting the main reps now. He seemed to be the main guy. The guy on the 1 yard line was him. And it kind of felt a little bit like they're a little bit concerned about Zach Wilson. They're not 100% confident. I mean, we saw him. He wasn't great. So I get the feeling that Michael Carter is going to be relied on a little bit more. I don't think he's going to go off and get massive scores. The reason I brought him in was purely because I'm sick to death of Myles Gaskin at this point in time. I'll probably have to play Miles Gaskin because I think is Eckler on. Yeah, Eckler's on bye, so I'm probably going to have to play him. But I just felt like Michael Carter was just sitting there as someone who I think will do well in the future. And I took out Elijah Moore because, to be honest, he's done nothing. I'm not going to play him. So I just got rid of him. I think the thing that I was interested in a little bit was obviously all the trouble with, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. 2 running backs went at Cleveland. I'd love to know why Freddie went for Demetric Felton, who I think has had 1 snap.
He's had quite a few snaps, actually. He's been he's predominantly special teams, which they brought in.
Yeah, but as a running back, as the main running back.
Yeah, he may have only had 1 running snap, but I think he's been in there a couple of times for the passing game. I think they may look to line up that offense as a duo again, like they do with Chubb and Hunt, but with the with the 2 new guys. I think it's Johnson and Felton.
Well, Johnson played a bit last year, didn't he?
He played in the AFL, didn't he, prior? And well. So he's had a few snaps. He knows what he's been in the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you do need that combination of a catcher and a runner. And I think that's just a change of pace they're going for. And with the news that Baker Mayfield is not going to be playing, I think there's going to be opportunity to put in a catching back just to dump it off with if he's not quite getting the reads that he sees downfield with both Landry and Beckham both being out and Njoku being out and being out.
Yeah, I do kind of feel that it's probably that from what with Chubb, I kind of think they felt that he might have been okay to go this week, but because it's happened early, that's the game's earlier, that's why it's not. So it does kind of feel like it's only a 1-week loan as well. Like there's not a lot to that. Whereas I feel like Michael Carter, I think he's going to be the main guy now.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was going to be from the start, but I only lost him out of my team due to the fact I had injuries at running back that I needed to address, and he wasn't really doing much at the start of the year. But yeah, I agree. Going forward, he's going to get more and more snaps and be used more. Whereas I think Hunt and Chubb are both back next week. And then, they're a one-hit wonder, aren't they? I think it's a similar scenario at Chicago with anyone taking any of their backs. I mean, I looked at them and thought, should I have a punt on this? But, you get him in and them not really do anything.
Well, Damien Williams has got COVID, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's in my team. He's got, he had a good couple of weeks, but
but he'll be back. He'll be back quite quickly then.
Yeah. So there's no injury. I think they said if he'd been double vaxxed and followed the protocol, he wouldn't have even missed a single game. But I think a bit of stupidity there, and hopefully that's opened the eyes up of a few of the other players that you're not letting your team down if you do that.
Yeah, but I saw a lot of running backs went. I thought it was a lot of running, which kind of tells maybe they're starting to get a few injuries, like you say, with the whole thing at Cleveland, and sort of Lev Bell went.
Yeah,
Lev Bell went. DJ Dallas at Seattle. I mean,
I really like DJ Dallas. I think they're using a trick with him. Back end of last year, he was fantastic, and they've just not really used him this year for some reason. Why did you go for Devonta Freeman and not Lev Bell? Lev Bell had already gone. I wasn't overly looking at the waivers to particularly get anyone. I was quite happy with my starting lineup. I more took Freeman to maybe so other people couldn't use him. Looking at the split average and who's been getting a lot of the carries, Freeman's been used a bit more than Lev Bell. And obviously Murray's not playing. So I think Freeman will probably be given the shot as the lead back, and Lev Bell will work his way into it, maybe take more snaps. But it's just in there for a precaution for me, really, in case I do get other injuries or anything like that. So again, I had another space on the roster, so it's just you may as well fill.
You've got a lot of spaces on your roster. That's not a good sign.
That's called IR and COVID, mate. There's nothing I can do about that. You see in the Giants, the Browns in real life having to go through this. So and various others. So yeah, it's that was the thinking behind it, really. I was quite shocked that the Falcons' defense was picked up. And there's a lot of good defenses on bye week this week, which is why I snapped mine up early last week and took the Saints because I didn't have to go through the waiver process for that. So the Falcons is a bit of an odd one for me that was picked up, bearing in mind.
Who are they playing?
They're playing Miami. Right.
Okay. But who picked them up? Was it someone who was at the Jacksonville Miami game?
No, it wasn't. James Dixon's picked them up. But the Ravens and the 49ers defenses are both sat on our waivers still. The 49ers have got the Colts. The Colts offense have been clicking of lately, and 49ers have been struggling. And the Ravens playing Cincinnati. But I feel like the Ravens defense has proved they are a force. The game against the Colts was a bit of a one-off, and they can produce good numbers. So I'm quite shocked that Falcons defense, which no one has ever said anything good about this year, no one's like going, "Oh, they're sneaky good."
No.
So that has shocked me. But I think there's still people with big gaps in their teams. If we look ahead to next week, there's a lot of people still got holes to fill. So I don't think we've seen the end of the waivers yet.
Yeah, you're probably right. There are quite a few teams that have got people still out of their lineup. So there is probably a strong chance that people will pick some people up. I don't really. To be honest, though, when you look at the players and you look at who's available, there isn't really anyone that particularly stands out to me. Like you say, the Ravens defense, but the Bengals have been playing well, and it's definitely what I think. And then they're going on bye, so it's maybe that's why the Ravens haven't been picked up. But when you actually look at the players, to me, they're just, apart from maybe. If you were desperate for a wide receiver, you could put in Donovan Peoples-Jones because he's going to get reps tonight.
He's going to get reps, but again, it's Case Keenum at the helm, not Baker
Mayfield. And this is the problem. It's like you look at all of when you look at the top ones, there's no running backs at all really that are going to do anything. Your wide receivers that you look at, a lot of them are with either they've got rookie quarterbacks or quarterbacks that just aren't very good. So I think that's probably why they're all there, to be honest. There isn't anyone that I would be desperate to go and get, I must admit.
There isn't, but as we said at the start of the show, these bye weeks and injuries, you're going to be forced. This is what I say about our league. I know it's all been fun and games at the start of the year with having your lineups that you picked. But lots of people have always questioned why it's a 14-man league. Should we go back down to 12 like we used to have? And I feel like this is now when our league becomes elite, because your knowledge, I'd say knowledge, bit of it's luck, isn't it? But your knowledge of matchups and, what players have been targeted by their quarterback week in, week out, who's getting the red zone looks, what teams are throwing the ball deep, what teams are running the ball more. I think this is where it becomes elite, because you're forced to pick up these people off of the waivers that could be a bust. And I think that's the good thing about our league.
Yeah, it does make it, it does mean that you have to know a lot more, because the thing is like I found that with the draft. I think that was when we did the draft, that was the one thing that I found quite difficult because I'm used to being in 12-man leagues. I don't think I've ever done a 14-man league, and you're at the back end of the draft, and there really isn't a lot there. I mean, it's like all the good players have gone ages ago. You're picking up people that aren't that great, and the other thing with this being redraft, which is something that I'm not used to as well, it does make you think more about the now. And I think having the waiver wire with a lack of options does kind of almost make you feel a little bit like, right, I have to pick someone who is actually going to play, because if you don't, what's the point, sort of thing. But obviously, I mean, you look at the quarterbacks that are left, and there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 quarterbacks that you can pick from. And to be honest, when you look at them, I don't think I'd want any of them, really. It's like, and this is the problem, because they're all like, a few of them are rookies, quite a few of them are rookies, and
or backups.
You know, or backups. I mean, the only I mean, you got Tua, but I mean, you know, we saw Tua. I mean, would you want him in your fantasy team? I mean, I thought he did okay. But a lot of, you know, he sort of put together a nice drive at the beginning and then another one during the middle of the second half. But apart from that, it was pretty poor. And, you know, I mean, the only one really is Jimmy G, who's there, who's sort of like a vet that could do something. But, you know, do we know if he's going to play?
Yeah.
You know, so it is very difficult. You do need to, you know, you need to know your players. And as I'm currently sitting fourth, I can honestly say it clearly shows that a lot of you don't know your players.
Well, no, I think what I was getting at was it's when you get to the bye weeks, which have just started. So, you know, you've got through the first stage. Okay, you know, you've got many weeks still to come. So,
well, the one thing I would say is that this week was always going to be a horrible week for me. So I'm bowing out of this week already. It's going to be horrible. So
you've already labelled yourself a loss.
Yeah, unfortunately, the run had to come to an end at some point. I mean, you know, 4 in a row. That's pretty impressive.
You're playing the guy who's currently bottom, right?
I am playing the guy who's currently bottom. Not the best person to lose to, but unfortunately, again, another. You know, he's got Patrick Mahomes though, DK Metcalf, Jalen Waddle. You know, they're decent players he's got there. So
I think he was unlucky at the start of the season. I think he had 2 of the San Francisco running backs that both went on IR within weeks. He's got Christian McCaffrey who went on IR. I don't think it really represents where he is in the league. He's got Amari Cooper as well. I think he's just been unlucky with his running backs and injuries, and he's had them in his team when they've got the injury. And we all know if you have one player score 0 or 1, you've lost that week.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think it's slightly unfair to say that, you know, he's bottom because his team's poor. It's more injuries for him as well. So yeah, I think you've got a really tough matchup, and you're going to be again one of those teams that Freddie was talking about. He reckons a good like 75% of our league, if not more, is going to be 4-3 or 3-4.
Yeah. I mean, I can't, like I say, I'm not saying I've got no chance, but I feel that my chance is pretty limited. You know, I've if you take any notice of what they say you're going to get, then I'm 10 points short. So I think it was always going to be a tough one. I've got Dallas Goedert back, so that's good. Henry Ruggs. We're going to be playing Henry Ruggs this week, definitely, because he keeps going off every time I leave him. But yeah, I mean, I'm without Deontay Johnson and Austin Eckler, and I just feel like to be without your two, you know, your main running back, your main wide receiver, it's just near impossible. So even our
guy that's been, well, I spoke to him earlier today. I tried to get him back on the show for today, but unfortunately he's out for a meal with his family. But I did try and get Byron back on this week to come and chat with us. He's really eager to get back on. I'm going to try and get back on soon. But I think he's eager to get back on because when we first got him on, it was week 2 and he had a loss. But he's gone on a 5-game winning streak and he looks pretty good and he's got a good matchup again. Is he the new team to look out for with the slight decline in Ben's team?
Yeah, I think he's got himself a decent. He's got himself a very decent team there. I think all the time that Green Bay are doing well, I think Rodgers and Jones will get him decent points. He's got Gesicki. I really like Mike Gesicki. I think he's a really good tight end. I've got him in a lot of other leagues, and I think that he will continue to do well because I think that all the time Tua is there, he does seem to go to Gesicki. So I think he'll do well there. Cooper Kupp, LA are on fire. He's got Van Jefferson, another one. James Robinson that he probably took during the draft just purely as a backup because of Travis Etienne, and it's worked out for him. Justin Jefferson's there. Emmanuel Sanders has been great in Buffalo. It almost feels like because everyone's looking at Diggs, Sanders is just getting the ball all the time. It was
just a massive upgrade on John Brown, wasn't it? Because John Brown was good there. And you've just got like a better version of that. So
absolutely.
That was always going to work.
So he's got himself a really good team there. I think it's going to be tough. I mean, for anyone to sort of come up against him and really put up some seriously good points at the moment, because these, the teams that he has got multiple ones in, Green Bay, LA Rams, are doing really well. His problem is going to be the bye weeks because he's going to lose 2 of them, and he's got a couple of Buffalo players as well, which might affect him, might not. This is the problem. I mean, Buffalo are on bye this week, so Minnesota, so it's Justin Jefferson, but he's still got a good team there. I think that you'll find that he probably won't go all the way through without losing again, but he will. I'd be very surprised if he's not in the playoffs. Very surprised.
Like I said, he's the one to watch every year. He won the league last year and he was in the final the year before. He's made a bold move this week and he's put Carl Juszczyk in at running back. Does he know something we don't know?
I don't know. Juszczyk's a weird one, isn't it? Because he sort of comes in, but all he needs, if he can get a 1 yard, 2 yards, from the goal line, then chances are at the moment he's probably going to go to Juszczyk. But he's going up against Indianapolis. It's going to be tough. But I mean, I think it's more there isn't anyone else.
Yeah, he's stacked his roster with wide receivers for some bizarre reason. Stacked it. His whole bench is virtually wide receivers, I think, bar. He's got Robinson on bye and he's got Singletary on bye as well. So I mean, it's like I imagine that Robinson would normally be playing there. Would be his choice. But I mean, this is the problem, isn't it? It's that's why he's there. But and it might cost him. You never know. If I don't know who he's playing, but it may cost him this week. But I do think he's going to be very difficult to stop from getting in the playoffs, and then it's just a matter of most of the buys. Well, all the buys are done then, and I think he's going to have a pretty strong team. Like I said, every game this week is going to be a real close matchup. I think there's no point in us really going into detail this week with all the teams in that middle because, like I said, they're all going to be 3 and 4, 4 and 3. We spoke about Byron and Ben, and the guy, other Ben, at the bottom. I think that's really all we can touch base on until next week. So I think we're going to leave it there. We're going to wish everyone good luck. Every week you've been on, Adam, at the end of the show, I've asked you for your gambling tip? Have you got it prepared for me, or you?
I haven't. No, I have no gambling.
You know this. I catch you up every week.
Yeah, I have no gambling tip whatsoever. I haven't looked at any of it. I think I don't know. Who do you rate tonight? I mean, Teddy Bridgewater is meant to be playing, isn't he? So let's have a look. Let's see what's
on. Any bets on Javonte Williams? I know you've got him in your team, but I feel like he's had a nice season. He's come into fruition a bit. Do you think he's going to be the lead guy at that team with the injuries they've got?
I don't know, because Melvin Gordon's still there, isn't he? He it's like a bad smell. You just can't get rid of him.
Seems to be on fire at the minute.
He just won't go well. I'll tell you one, it's not much of a tip. I mean, it's basically evens, but I cannot, for the weekend, I know that, oh God, who is it? Who are Detroit playing? They're playing someone and they're giving away. No, not Detroit.
They're playing someone. That's when you find out they're on bye week. They're playing LA Rams.
Yeah, the Texans. The Texans, they're giving away 17.5 points on the spread. Wow. I mean, that's a lot of points.
Well, they're playing Arizona.
I know, but that's a lot of points. Do you really think that they're not going to do anything?
No, they haven't. They haven't been terrible.
This is what I mean.
But that offense is lightning. So
Chicago have got 12.5 points head start against the Bucks. There's a lot of big favourites here this week. The Lions against the Rams, 15 points. I mean, the Bears haven't. They're not awful.
No, they've been better with Justin Fields playing there. I think they've looked.
The Bengals have got 6.5 points against the Ravens. Touchdown, no, you don't fancy that? No, you don't. I don't have a bet for you. Sorry.
Well, are you releasing a video at least for everyone later in the week?
Yeah, there should be one coming out probably Saturday.
Oh, we've got someone with a fantasy question. If we've got time for it,
go for it.
Yeah, it's from Brad. What's your fantasy question? Is he there? Got a what's up, guys? Got a fantasy question?
Okay.
Don't know what it is. Okay, maybe if Brad wants to just message it over to us on our Twitter or Instagram or anything like that. Me, Freddie, and Adam will pick it up. We'll discuss it. We'll give you some advice. I think we gave some good advice the previous week when we had a question for which running backs to start, and we said James Robinson, and he had a good week. So, between us three, we do know what we're on about. So if you have got any questions, please just message in. We will help. Oh, we've got the question. Would you trade Barkley and Ruggs for Christian McCaffrey?
No. Next.
You've got the same problem with Barkley as you've got with Christian McCaffrey of which one of them is going to stay fit. You could make that trade and lose Ruggs, who is always good on a good matchup for anyone whose secondary is weak. Ruggs is going to score well. And Barkley's going to be used a lot when he is back. And like I said, Christian McCaffrey's not stayed fit for the last, 3 seasons now?
That's the problem with McCaffrey, isn't it? I mean, last year he basically missed the whole season. This year he's missed, half the games, maybe more already that have been around. I just feel like, although when he's fit and he clearly is the number one piece in that offense, he's a great guy to have in your team. But although, to me, Barkley and CMC at the moment kind of feel the same. It's like, what's the point? Because they're not playing. It's like, this is the problem. And Ruggs, although, I actually think, despite everything that's gone on at the Raiders, I actually think that they're going to be better off without Gruden there. And I think that Ruggs he's a good weapon. He's someone that is, going to really make a difference.
I don't know which fantasy site you're using, Brad, but it does show you your matchups of how good the secondary is and teams that he's going up against. So it's key to look at things like that when you are choosing Ruggs to go into your lineup in a flex, maybe. I think you're giving up too much. And if you did want to make that change, you'd want a wide receiver as well to come in. Right. I think we've overran by 15 minutes of what we usually do. But that's classic with me and Adam because we just like to chat. So I'm going to wish everybody good luck. Hopefully that helped you, Brad. And we'll be back next week with more advice and everything to go through. So best of luck, everyone. Check out the main show. Sunday previews back this week, so make sure you watch that. Till then, guys, best of luck.